Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Number one on the channel, number one in your hearts. Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes _ here, as always, to use DLF and all of its fantastically amazing trade tools, mainly the DLF Trade Finder and the DLF Trade Analyzer, to take a theme, whatever we feel like talking about, whatever we can think of to talk about is more likely. We are doing overvalued players based on ADP, and we are starting with a little of a maybe hot button topic. Still, maybe, I don't know. But regardless of what his actual ADP is, Kyle Pitts is still the tight end one. Okay, let's have a talk. Let's just sit down. If you're standing, just sit. Kyle Pitts is very athletic. Kyle Pitts had a really good rookie year for a tight end, breaking 1,000 yards. If just caught a couple of touchdowns, we would be calling him historically tight end, like tight end one forever. So let's look at the trades. Let's see if having the title of tight end one matters. And I'm really, really glad you did not put in the one that went down in my league. 2 days ago-ish, someone traded in 0.75 premium Kyle Pitts for Cam Akers in the 110.
Not overvalued.
we reviewed that on the Trade Addicts podcast. We were not as nice as we could have been to a guy we know listens to the show. So sorry, Ryan. But let's go. Kyle Pitts, tight ends one, 12-team, one quarterback league. Kyle Pitts for Cooper Kupp and Leonard Fournette. Kyle Pitts comes in at 602, Cooper Kupp 529, Leonard Fournette 138 for a total of 667. This is, I froze for a second. I was just like I want to say this is easily Kyle Pitts, but it's not. If you're competing, getting Cooper Kupp plus for Kyle Pitts is a good move. I think Cooper Kupp can walk in and do what he was doing last year. Don't care that he's going to be 30 because he was doing it with a hurt Stafford and still was top 2 wide receiver most of the season until he got hurt.
I think he was wide receiver 1. He finished in wide receiver 1 in points per game. So
yeah, because I know there was with Diggs started on fire also. So I know there was a little up and down between them two.
And Jefferson always.
Yeah, and for a while Devontae, and then everybody got weird. I think, if it was someone other than Fournette, like if we had someone who was valued around Fournette but was just younger, I would feel a lot better about this, or at least someone who was
not about to get cut.
Guaranteed their spot. Yeah, like James Conner, no. Man, if he just turned it into a 23 second, I'd probably be all for it. There's not a lot of good running backs in this price range. David Montgomery, even though he's not on a team right now, technically, because he's a free agent, I still have faith that he'll land somewhere and get part of a committee, if not be a guy somewhere. Mm-hmm. Antonio Gibson. Mm-hmm. Hey, let's just be all Falcons. Tyler Algier, that's a little too low. If it were post-draft and they did not draft another running back, I would say yes, easily, but we're not there yet. I think this is a decent trade. I look at it and my gut reaction is, oh man, Pitts. But I think in real life, it's probably a good trade.
Yeah, and it's interesting to make that move now, I think, too. Because I still believe that Cooper Kupp can gain a lot of value. It just won't happen until we actually see him back on the field, scoring as a top 3 wide receiver. And at the same time, I think Pitts is going to hold, if not gain a little bit more value, because we're going to go through the whole entire offseason of this is Kyle Pitts, year 3, blah, 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 But Arthur Smith is still there. I do believe that they go into the season with Desmond Ridder. I don't think they draft a quarterback. I think that they want to see what Desmond Ridder can do. And if he sucks, then that might give them a better draft pick than what they have right now next year for a quarterback in next year's class. That could be Caleb Williams or Drake May, or if Quinn Ewers does really well, or some other guy that comes out of nowhere. They could set themselves up for a better shot at a quarterback next year. So I think that they do that. And I think that that is spelling bad news for Kyle Pitts for year 3 again, because the situation hasn't changed. Like, we didn't like him in his situation this year, hasn't changed. So why would we like him again in year 3? Unless Desmond Ridder takes a step forward, which I'm not really anticipating. And you said that they can support good fantasy pass catchers. I think it's just they can support a good fantasy pass catcher. It could be Drake London, it could be Kyle Pitts. Like, they could eat into each other really, really hard, or it could be one and not the other. So I'm not aboard Kyle Pitts until I actually see him start doing something, and not having Michael Pruitt score 4 or 5 touchdowns in a year at the tight end position. That would be great. I do agree that the thing that is ruining this for me is Leonard Fournette. Like, that was even his teammate Rashad White.
Yeah, I was avoiding that because of how young White was.
Right.
Like, I was trying to pick someone that was a little older also.
I like James Conner. I would much rather have Conner than Leonard Fournette, because I think Conner at least has the starting role in 2023.
Yeah, I just didn't know what his contract was.
Yeah, no, he's going to be there for sure.
Is he?
And
Okay.
he has top 10 upside.
Yeah.
So if you're going for that push, I like Cooper Kupp and James Conner better than Cooper Kupp and Leonard Fournette.
This next one's a little bit more interesting, and I think I'm going to strongly disagree with the analyzer on this one. Kyle Pitts for the 106 and TJ Hawkinson. Kyle Pitts coming in at 554.3, the 106 at 472.5, and TJ Hawkinson at 270 for a total of 742. This is pretty heavily on the Hawkinson and the pick side. I think the 106 is a little overvalued. I mean, in a 1 quarterback league, we're talking what, running back 3 or 4, wide receiver 3, like 4. Like, this is down, unless, like, maybe if it wasn't Hawkinson and you wanted to take Mayer at the 106, so like you're aging down from a 22-year-old. I don't get it. Like that. This helps your team if you don't have enough good assets, I think. But to me, the 106 is just too low. To me, I would send the 106 and Hawkinson for Pitts and feel good about it. Even though Hawkinson and Pitts are probably in the same tier these days, I would have Pitts on the top of that tier and Hawkinson at least in the middle.
I'm on the complete opposite side. I think this is fantastic. I would do this trade every single day for the 106 and TJ Hawkinson.
See, like, I'm thinking right now it would have to be like the 104. For me to get rid of Pitts, I need running back 2 or wide receiver 2. Like, I want to walk away with, at least at this point, Gibbs or Addison or JSN, whoever falls to me.
See, I don't even think it's so much of that. Like, I love going from Kyle Pitts down to Hawkinson. I'd do the same exact thing if you replaced Hawkinson with Goddard, and honestly, probably Hawkinson or Schultz as well.
Okay,
too,
so
if Schultz re-signs in Dallas,
which he will forever. That dude is Jason Witten and re-embodied. So here's why I am wrong in everything I am saying. If this were 3 weeks ago and we didn't have the individual picks in the analyzer and I just saw Pitts for Hawkinson in the mid-first, I probably would have said yeah. But seeing it's the 106 and now knowing a little bit more, it's a little but no, you're right. I think it's still the right move because Hawkinson is only 25 still, which means age shouldn't come into play because you're not playing in a 12-year window. So don't matter. And their production by all means should be somewhat similar.
or Hawk has better. Yeah.
At best. So yeah, you are just losing out on dynasty value. And while that's important right now, but especially if if you just took over a team and like Pitts was one of the only good things on your team, I think this is a great move. But I don't know. Like, imagine if the Falcons do get a quarterback in this draft, I think Pitts' value goes up automatically. 12 team super flex. Oof. Kyle Pitts for Christian McCaffrey, straight up. Kyle Pitts 602, Christian McCaffrey 796. I understand, and I am on the forefront of the get rid of old running backs, get rid of most running backs on your team if it's not scoring points season, which is now. No. It's not. No, like I can't even justify this. Like Christian McCaffrey is, yes, he's 26. That doesn't matter. I don't think it matters in the least what his age is. Like, and I don't
It's Christian McCaffrey, dude.
exactly. And look how well he does in this offense, regardless of who plays quarterback. And to me, this would be very easily Christian McCaffrey. And if I'm rebuilding and I don't want Christian McCaffrey, late first on top.
I was gonna say, like the analyzer said, you should be able to get more. So even if you swap Pitts for McCaffrey now, and then you trade McCaffrey for something better or more down the road, you know, then that, yeah, just take the value with Christian McCaffrey, even if you are still rebuilding, or if you're competing, you will probably
if you have an active league. That is a very big caveat right here. If you have an active league in the non-point scoring season, you should always make the trade that gives you more value because, again, assuming the activity of your league is up there, you should be able to keep flipping pieces, in which case you're gaining 200 analyzer points. Next player we have makes me sad, and it's DJ Moore at wide receiver 18, which doesn't sound bad because every time we talk about DJ Moore, we're pretty much calling him a solid wide receiver 2. And this is in the middle of wide receiver 2.
as solid of a wide receiver 2 ranking as you can get.
But my problem with that is there are younger players in his area that I think I would prefer over him just because they're younger and have higher upside. We've seen the upside of DJ Moore, and it's not very up.
Dang. That makes me so sad, dude.
It really, really does.
Imagine telling us in 2018 that DJ Moore is just like the most bland wide receiver 2 of all time.
We were so excited about it as after the catch and open field, like all of this stuff. Yes, and then just nothing. I mean, quickly looking, Michael Pittman at 19. No, that's fine. But Pickens, Treylon Burks, Christian Watson, Brandon Ayuk, Marquise Brown, Jamison Williams. There's the next group of wide receivers. I probably put DJ Moore under that. Maybe not James. Like, I want Jamison Williams to be a thing, and I think their price is probably Jamison Williams is probably worth a little less, right? But I'm dropping DJ Moore down to probably around wide receiver 24, which is, I think, when you get to that level, safety isn't really valuable. You want that upside with maybe it comes with a little bit of risk, like with Christian Watson and Treylon Burks. So that's why I put those younger guys that we haven't seen the upside above him. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. I think it makes sense.
Add Jerry Jeudy to that and I'm in.
Down. I didn't look down far enough. Yeah, I'm good with that. But let's see what the analyzer says. Oh, wow. Big boy trade. 12-team Superflex. Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, David Montgomery. Adding Brock Purdy into this is going to make everything so complicated. 4, AJ Brown and Derrick Henry. Devontae Adams, 501. DJ Moore, 306. David Montgomery, 111. Brock Purdy in a Superflex league, 87 for a total of 1,005. AJ Brown, 769. Derrick Henry, 315 for a total of 1083. I really, really like AJ Brown and Derrick Henry. Mm-hmm. I think I take the package side. And it's not really convincingly. I think you get a year or two still. Devontae Adams is that good. That's where I'm stuck. Devontae Adams is that good, where I don't care who his quarterback is, as long as he is there and willing to play, which might be a little bit of a cross of fingers. I want Devontae Adams on my team and scoring points. DJ Moore, we've said exactly what he is. And there has, in a 12-team league, assuming you're starting 10-ish, you need that on your team. Mm-hmm. David Montgomery, I think, has a job. I think David Montgomery can still be that running back 2 with running back 1 upside. And I mean, Brock Purdy, if anything, has proven that he is probably one of the best backups in the league at this point. Which, again, in a 12-team Superflex league, has a place on your roster, but right now he's being valued more than that. I just think the side A with Adams and DJ Moore is more versatile, but I absolutely get the allure of trading for AJ Brown and Derrick Henry out of all of this.
Yeah, and that's the side that I want. I'm looking at this whole entire thing and I'm like, you know what? Just give me AJ Brown and just give me Derrick Henry. Like I'll take the age reset going from Devontae and AJ Smith. I would add, a David Montgomery to go and do that just to hit reset on whatever Monty is and stuff. So then if I'm willing to do that, then DJ Moore for Brock Purdy for Derrick Henry, I think that makes sense on both sides. Like if you have Derrick Henry and you're rebuilding, you're not going to say no to DJ Moore.
Yeah.
But if DJ Moore is your wide receiver 3 or 4, and you're like, well, his production is largely replaceable, and especially whenever you can get, like what we just said, similar production but with higher upside shots for cheaper, like with a Christian Watson, a Brandon Ayuk, a Treylon Burks, a Jared Jeudy, it's easy to move a DJ Moore and then acquire one of those other guys and just replace that. And in doing so, you are getting Derrick Henry, which it's hard. We're not team buying aging running backs at this point, but Derrick Henry just seems like he'll always be undervalued in the non-point scoring season, and there's the only reason for that is just because he's old.
And a running back,
and a running back. But whenever he's on the field, dude is untouchable, and there's no signs that he's slowing down. Like it's kind of like Travis Kelce. Like he will be elite until he's no longer elite.
Until he doesn't feel like doing it anymore.
Yeah, and I'm done predicting when that will be. Because these guys are just not human. So
they're not human anymore. It's true. The next trade we have, also 12-team Superflex, is DJ Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Rashid Shaheed for Deebo Samuel, Odell Beckham, and Terrace Marshall. That's so weird. I don't think I've ever seen a 3-for-3 with just wide receivers.
And with 4 of them being largely irrelevant.
Yeah. So DJ Moore, 306, DPJ, 46, Rashid Shaheed, 14 for a total of 367, Deebo, 418, Odell, 20, Terrace Marshall, 17 for a total of 454. Deebo is another tough one where his ADP is always pretty high. His trade value is always a little low, and he always scores pretty well. I hope everyone realized that wide receiver 3 season was an anomaly. Like that's all I can say.
I think so.
But he finished this season as wide receiver 24, I think it was. And that's a lot better than I thought he did, because he seemed to do poorly. And I had him on 2 teams, and I never really liked playing him. Like it never felt right to have him in my lineups. But points per game, wide receiver 24. Mm-hmm. But he does well enough all the time. And when that offense runs well, their main players do well enough. And I think the real problem is you don't want to have to say well enough as many times when you're talking about someone of the price of Deebo Samuel. But also, like you said, I like the wide receivers on the DJ Moore side much, much better. Like DPJ is good, and Watson was at least trying to throw to him, even though, Watson wasn't throwing very accurately at the end of the season. And Rashid Shaheed is a young guy on a team that doesn't have a lot of options besides Olave at this point. And he was doing splashingly well every once in a while. Mm-hmm. The guys on the Deebo side are pretty shrug your shoulders. But I put Deebo ahead of DJ Moore because they're sort of similar. Like I said before, wide receiver 24, he ends up being pretty safe. DJ Moore, we've been calling him that solid wide receiver too. We've seen more upside out of Deebo than we have of DJ Moore. So we shouldn't be putting them up against each other, which is pretty much what we're still doing here. So I stick with, DJ Moore being a little overvalued.
So what's kind of funny here is Deebo only played 13 games, but if you look at his pace, he was doing basically the same thing that he was doing last year in terms of the volume that he was getting. Like last year, he had 121 targets and 59 rush attempts. This year, he would have been on pace for 123 targets and 48 rush attempts. So it's like basically the same. The only difference was he had about 600 fewer receiving yards and about half as many touchdowns. And then obviously rushing too, he didn't, the rushing efficiency last year was insane as well. It was just a whole bunch of touchdowns for Debo. But it's nice to see that at least the overall volume didn't change all that much. And that's what I like to still see, is that he's still getting that utilization inside that Niners offense, even with Kittle healthy, Ayuk's not in the doghouse anymore. They added Christian McCaffrey, all that kind of stuff. And, he was producing well in the playoffs. I think it wasn't this last game, but the game before that, I think he had like 100 and a touchdown as well. So he's got, like you said, he is a similar play to DJ Moore, I think, floor wise, but the ceiling is a lot higher. So that's the asset that I would rather have if they're basically being priced similarly, which is what's going on in this trade.
And it would be nice to not have to play with 3 different quarterbacks in a season.
Oh, like, yeah, that too. Yeah.
Speaking of one of those quarterbacks, Trey Lance comes in at QB 13. I don't know why at this point. I get that we don't have a reason to think he can't do what he did, what we wanted him to do. All I know is we have seen this team not be able or choose not to play Trey Lance and still make it deep into the playoffs, regardless of who their quarterback is. Mm-hmm. If Brock Purdy doesn't just straight up fall on his face and some team comes and offers a decent pick for him, yeah, I think San Francisco would be very smart to take that. But then we are walking into a completely different situation from which we drafted him for. And is that good? Probably, because he'll start. But 13 is still way too high for me. We have enough quarterbacks where we are either getting good, dependable production or upside and youth. That I don't think we need to play a dude coming into his third year that started like a total of 4 games.
For real. Yeah. It is really weird to see him up there at QB 13. And I've seen some, I don't want to say crazy trades, but I look at trades on Twitter that involve Trey Lance, and I'm just like, why are we still taking the shot on this guy at this elevated price?
Yeah.
Like, why is his price not dropped and we're not discounting him?
And it probably, I have to say, is because he technically hasn't disappointed us yet.
I guess so.
At least on the field. But let's see how this goes. In 12-team Superflex, Trey Lance and the 201 for Deshaun Watson. Trey Lance for 11, the 201, 146 for a total of 557. Watson at 570. Wish it was a different quarterback of the same value, and I would say this is absolutely something I would do. Personal stuff aside, yeah, I would easily do this for Watson.
Yeah, I saw this trade and I said the same thing. I was like, Russ isn't gonna like having to pick the Watson side here. But I think what this trade does and why I included it in here was it's a showcase of what I think you'd be easily able to do with Trey Lance and just add a second round pick, and you can go to someone who's a lot safer, potentially better, produces better. Like, would you do the same exact trade if instead of Deshaun Watson, it was Kyler Murray?
Only a little rough because of the injury, but in theory, yes. And well, Murray wouldn't be as low if it weren't for the injury, but Tua, yes. Dak, yes. Like, I'm looking around the ADP.
I would not be shocked if you were able to do this same thing for Lamar either. Yeah,
Lamar's pretty depressed right now because of sitting out that game at this point, which more or less it seems like he just decided he didn't want to do it because he wanted ensure his health for his contract talks.
Right. And if you're looking at any players like above that, we get to Fields, Lawrence, then Herbert and Burrow, and then the top 3. So then I would be adding a mid or early first for any of those guys.
I was about to say change that. Well, changing the 201 to the 101 is a bit of a different conversation. But if we had like the 105 on our team and I could throw Trey Lance in the 105, I would start at,
oh my goodness, dude.
I would start at the top and work my way down and see no one's going to give you Allen or Mahomes, but yeah, fine. I'll start at Jalen Hurts and work my way down. See how high I can get out of Lance in the mid first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any Lance shares to try this with in real life, but that is absolutely what I would do. So only having to add a second, and I get that it's the 201, and I get that it's a good draft and blah blah blah. It doesn't matter. That's a hell of an upgrade. So I think it's absolutely worth it. I do think that's the right move. This one is interesting. Trey Lance and the 110 for the 107 and the 108. So 10-team Superflex, 381 for Lance. The 110 is 243 for a total of 625. The 107 and the 108, 356, 319 for a total of 675. I would want it to be a little earlier, especially because, yeah, I mean, only getting the 2-pick jump from that 110, like if one of those was like the 105 or 6, I would feel so much better about it. But honestly, I think I do this anyway. I think you have more versatility in trading those picks than you will in trading Lance.
Let me ask you this. Would you rather have Trey Lance or hit the reset button with Richardson or Levis?
Hit the reset button.
Okay.
Because let's hit the reset button and you get a 2-pick jump. Because at the 107, you take your shot and you take Levis, you take Richardson. And at the 108, you get a 2 picks ahead of what the 110 was. Yeah, it makes it even easier when you say it like that.
That's essentially how I view this trade. And I'm 100% taking the reset on that as well, too, because, you know, I think you could argue that even though people don't like Richardson and Levis as prospects, they were better prospects coming in than what Trey Lance was, because Trey Lance was playing at a FCS school with 1 year of production. Now, granted, it was like he had like 20 touchdowns and 1 pick, but he only had 1 year of production at an FCS school. And then COVID happened. He didn't play. He got drafted 2021, played like 2 games. 2022 played a game and a half and then got hurt. And like you can argue this dude has not played meaningful football in 3 years. You could argue this dude has never played meaningful football.
That's a little harsh, but okay.
Yeah, like, you know, like at the high school and then the FCS level, like, is that, you know, but yeah. But I would rather just like, at least with Richardson and Levis, you're getting someone who has, you know, SEC experience, someone who's, I feel like, has a better shot coming into the pros, just as a plain old rookie with, I think, the same exact upside as Trey Lance of a more mobile quarterback, questionable passing. You know, does the situation? Well, we don't know what the situation is for either one of those two. We don't really know what the situation is for Trey Lance. Any one of those guys could be the starter on week 1, not be the starter on week 1, be the starter by week 7. I have no idea. I'm just going to hit the reset button. And then, yeah, like you said, you get a 2-pick jump.
Next, we have in Addison's inbox.
A
Because I sent out like 15 trades between last night and this morning. One got accepted, but no real good counters.
What was it?
Gino and Tony Pollard for Calvin Ridley and a 24 first.
You got the Ridley side.
Of course I did.
I like that. I like it.
I was happy. Okay, so 10-team Superflex League. Big boy trade incoming. Lamar Jackson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and J.K. Dobbins for the 102, 103, a 24 first, and 24 second. Whew. Lamar Jackson, 793, Amon-Ra, 611, J.K. Dobbins, 253 for a total of 1657. 102, 544, the 103, 506, 24 first, 233, 24 second, 75. Whew. For a total of 1359. I'm with the analyzer in this one. I want the players pretty easily.
Let's go.
I mean, straight down the line, Lamar over the 102, Amon-Ra in a 10-team league over the 103, J.K. Dobbins. Yeah, for a 24 first, I get it, and then a second is just kind of whatever. Like,
love it.
This is very easily the players for me. Like, this is, you want a third of a lineup.
Yeah, so I'm glad it was that easy for you. Maybe this was just me wanting to add this in here as a brag.
If you're trying to reset your team, I get it. I get going for these picks. You are going to have a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. It is fun to look down and see the 102, 103, and an extra 24 first and second. Like, that's awesome. And I just want more for getting rid of those players. Like, I guess that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, but I ended up getting the players, and I still have the 106 and the 2.01, which in a 10 team is like the 111.
Yeah. So
and I still have 2 more picks in 2024. So
I will say, if that 24 second was a 24 first, I would probably consider it insanely even, and more power to you, because that is, I mean, you're resetting from a 26-year-old quarterback and he's 23-year-old wide receiver, 24-year-old running back, which you don't necessarily need to, even in a rebuild. But like I said,
more flexibility with him. Yeah, and more fun.
You go get those picks and you do whatever the heck you want with them, because people will want them. So yeah, and it's funny because it doesn't seem like that big of a jump, but it is. So if you made that 24 second at first, I would love this even more. Well, I would love this more as an even trade, but oh man, those players.
I'm having a lot of fun with the direction this team is heading in, and still having a lot of picks in there too. And I was really glad that I was able to get this done.
You're going to be the best second place team in the league.
Yes. Well, in that league, I can't get past the semis, so I'll be the best third or fourth team.
Oh, nice. Just like me, I will always have the greatest second place teams in Trade Addicts leagues. I can't win them. I won one so far in the 4 full seasons of them, and we are now up to Trade Addicts 10 having a full season. So do that multiplication, because I don't want to. That's how many leagues, and I've only won it once, and I've made a lot of finals.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to prevent that from happening in TA11. So
yeah, no, don't worry. There's too many good people in TA11. I'm gonna do so bad. But on that note of me saying how bad I am at fantasy football, this has been the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes out of Maze Hayes _. We'll catch you next time.